Peace. What's good? How y'all doing? This is ZaZa Ali. Today is Saturday, March 4th, 2023. I pray that this second message reaches you in the best of health, spirit, and mind. Um, I said I was going to do a 30-minute video. I ended up doing a 40-minute video, and I didn't even say everything I wanted to say. And what happened is I downloaded the video, I saved the video, downloaded it, uploaded it to YouTube, um, left home, went to get something to eat, and the whole way going to pick up my food, I was having a conversation in my head about the things that I didn't say. And this is one of my biggest, personal pet peeves is that once I grab onto something, it's hard for me to let it go until I complete it or at least feel like I've made the point. So this is going to be part 2 of a very short video, or this video is going to be short because I just want to briefly say the things that I didn't say in the first video. And I even had a thought that perhaps when I do these videos in the future, I'll do a part 1 and a part 2, where the part 1 is more information based, linear, intellectual kind of information like the earlier one was, even though that one's probably a little more balanced. But then part 2 just be me kind of coming from the heart and saying what needs to be said on the topic from the divine feminine. So that's that masculine and feminine balance sort of playing itself out, and doing so in an environment we're creating around quantum conversations. And I think being balanced between the higher and lower self, between the masculine and feminine, between the indulgence and discipline, between the creativity and the work ethic, willpower, and all these different elements and layers of all of us that are usually being neglected. But I think it's important to have these conversations to be internally focused, because consciousness creates reality. And the topic of the voice, even as I was driving, I was thinking about this, like I was just reading 3 or 4 books, or referencing 3 books actually, but there have been very, significant studies and research and whole industries and schools of thought and medicine based around our voice. And so as I was considering that idea of, I talk to myself all the time, so there's always a voice happening, right? Well, before I get into that, let me say this before I forget, because I did forget to say it in the first video. I've been doing an experiment on my platforms. Me doing videos with just voiceovers and not physically being present in the videos has been intentional, and I've been doing it for experimental purposes, for a few reasons. But I thought about that as earlier after I finished that video, like, I don't think I was conscientiously in the beginning doing it, but I think as I started to do it and I started to see a difference in, first of all, my numbers are always lower. My videos, if I'm not, physically present, my numbers take a dip. I recognize that. I'm totally okay with it. And then also, when I talk about subjects like this, sort of deeper metaphysics, substantive, important to me at least, things that are interesting to me, things that, inspire me, the numbers are always lower. And so I always keep that in context, that 85, 10, 5 number, and where the masses are in terms of consciousness. And it's important, even though the numbers don't matter, but the numbers are still relative, right? Because the thinkers among us, the ones that are going to see and think us through this and out of this insanity that we all currently find ourselves in, whether we know it or not. These are the type of conversations that we need to be having, because the universe is mental, and because consciousness creates reality. So the paradigm, or the the agenda that's taking place now was projected, 100, if not more years ago. And it started in word and in thought and in intention, right? So my intention for I wanted to see if my voice could carry my platform. I wanted to, because I'm more interested in being heard and felt right now than I am being seen. People have been seeing me for a long time. It's boring to me at this point. Not boring, but I'm just saying, like, it's not challenging to me. It's, it's these, on these platforms, we do videos, we give perspectives or information or, resources or whatever that is. So we're putting out into minds and hearts and, maybe expanding the consciousness, maybe, harming the collective consciousness. All of that is happening at one time on these airwaves. But if the voices on social media and the influencers and the spiritual gurus and the teachers and the authors and, all of these people outside of us, if their voices are louder in our head than our own, and I think that's a big problem. I'm saying that without, an open-ended question or not even making it a full question, just an observance, because there's a lot of talking and a lot of information on the airwaves, and people are getting lost in it. All of the spiritual gurus, all these different books that I reference in, even in the Secrets of Sound Healing, one of the points in the book is silence. The power of the now is about being present, sitting with yourself, relating to yourself, listening to yourself, understanding yourself. If you're listening to yourself, then that means you acknowledge that there's a voice and that there's a conversation. And that conversation is beyond just what's in your physical proximity. It's challenging you, it's questioning you, it's either making you feel great about yourself or making you feel like your worst enemy. When I reference the ACE score from my Change Your Mind from Lack to Abundance workbook, I don't think I gave the full context of why I was reading that. Yes, there are all of these different, physical, emotional neglect, domestic violence, all of these things that sort of calculate this score. But the point that I wanted to make is that over the course of a 5-year or a 10-year or 15-year or 20-year time period, from that child age up into adulthood, if you are constantly, your inner voice is constantly recycling trauma, constantly making you fearful and doubt yourself, or making the world the enemy, or, operating from a lack-based consciousness, a lack of trust, which is prevalent in the hood, right? Nobody really trusts anybody. So we're all walking around radiating this frequency, attracting more circumstances and situations that magnify the need for the frequency in the first place. So the ACE scores is, yes, it's about environmental impact, but it's also about whatever the voice is, whatever the language is in your head is what's giving directive to your physical body, to your emotional body, to your mindset and your mentality and the quality of your thinking, which reflects the quality of your decision-making, which reflects the quality of outcome in all circumstances, your ability to make decisions. Trust your gut instinct. And when you commit to yourself to people and relationships and circumstances that are not in your best interest, it's hard to fool yourself. You can't lie to you. So you got this internal energetic war going on, and your cells are accepting that we're down and out. Life is difficult. Nothing is working out for me. Everybody's working against me. Your cells are taking that language and that conversation happening in your head and processing it internally as instruction, which leads to the likelihood of chronic pulmonary lung disease increases by 390%, hepatitis 240%, depression 460%, suicide 1,220%. So this is not just because of the environmental circumstances, the spiritual aspect of you, the etheric being, the light-based, frequency-based, vibratory, electromagnetic, energetic being that you are. This is a quantum conversation, so I might get, we're gonna have a quantum conversation. Is radiating that frequency of all of those traumatic experiences, and also giving your body instructions, and also giving your environment instructions. What does that mean? Oh, that's deep. I just, oh, wait a minute. I got to write that down. Oh, man. What you're radiating, your signal based on your inner conversation, is giving your environment instructions on the type of people to bring into your life, the type of experiences that you need to experience to get what you need from these lessons or blessings or traumatic experiences. Your conversation in your inner conversation is giving your environment instructions. It's giving your future instructions. It's giving the potential job around the corner instructions. The potential mate, you know how you see stories and people say, we lived by each other for 10 years and never even knew it. She was, she lived 5 minutes away from me and we never knew it. Yeah, because you weren't in alignment with the frequency of the potential of that relationship yet. So 2 strangers passing in the nighttime. Because she had experiences and he had it to learn, and he had experiences to go through in order to elevate into alignment that matched the frequency of the relationship. That's beautiful. And most of the time, both of those people probably weren't even intentional about relationships. So there's that. Oh, I was focused on, when I was in college, I'm giving examples, I wasn't even focused on a relationship. I was focused on school. So the relationship signal isn't even really on. Imagine if we lived intentional, with intentional frequency, intentional vibration, the conversation within consistently retelling the story of what it is that we aspire to become and to attract. The ask, A-S-K, oh. Damn. The ask is the conversation with the universe. The desire, the root, the authentic, organic, truest to who you are desire, not the desire that came from the way you was raised, or the desire that came from the school you went to, or the desire based on what your parents expected or what society expects, but the true authentic desire within you that most people around you are never going to support you in, because it wasn't supported in them. That true authentic desire is the ask of the universe. That's the conversation. That's the real conversation, because most of us aren't even asking for anything. We're responding to life. The voice, you talk about the voice in the conversation. Oh my God. Oh. Do you trust your inner voice? This is the voice that's talking to God. Your inner voice matched with the energy. Because what did he say? I said I was going to come from the heart, but I wanted to. He said, if you say it mentally and do not speak it, is powerful. If you speak and do not say it mentally, it is powerless. If you say it with your words and don't have the conversation in your mind and conceive it in your mind, it means nothing. And you know how much wasted language, wasted words, wasted conversation are flooding the airwaves right now? How much ignorant, foolish, low vibrational content is on the airwaves right now? Backed by nothing but words. So, you know, the voice versus the voice, the authentic versus the authentic versus, no, the organic versus the synthetic, the authentic versus the fake. If you say it mentally and speak it at the same time, it is most powerful. The frequency of the thought. When I showed those videos in, I think it's the pineal gland and maybe a couple of other videos of the brain and the electricity spark that happens when a new thought takes place, and then the extension of vibration or frequency or energy from that thought. And then depending on if another thought that matches that frequency or that exceeds that frequency, like there is a whole electrical grid, for lack of a better word, that is processed and appears out of nowhere based on a thought. And the quality of the thought is what determines the magnitude of the spark that happens in the brain. This is, you talk about something from nothing. I would imagine that's a very miniature version of what they call the Big Bang Theory, even though I don't, their assessment is not where I see, you know, the timeline and how things took place, but that's another video. Do you trust your inner voice? If you're living in fear, we have to say no. If you're dedicated to people and circumstances and situations that are not in your best interest, regardless of what the reason is, we would have to say no, or at least have a conversation about it. Are you living in lack-based consciousness? Because the coldest thing about it is that regardless of wherever you are in your state of mind, consciousness, and your physical reality, whatever's happening in your life, changing your mindset, focusing on your breathing, thinking positive, finding something that makes you feel good about yourself, maybe being surrounded by people that make you feel good about yourself, tapping into your imagination, starting to visualize your goals, really honing in on your breathing and working to control your mind. These are all things that don't cost anything, that you can do from wherever you are. Those are the key ingredients to spiritual success. Remember, we're talking about giving the environment instructions. That's what cell phone towers, the dark agenda, their apparatuses are giving the environment instructions with frequencies, turning up frequencies during certain times of the night or the day to have different types of impacts on different types of people. These people are using frequencies to give the environment instructions and the mind instructions. And in some cases, in many cases now, the soul instructions. So where is our frequency? Where is our bandwidth? The chosen ones, those who chose themselves, those who choose truth, which is very uncommon in this hour, walking in the light, walking in Christ consciousness. I wanted to say something about the Malcolm X video. I cut the video in half. I don't know how far I am in this conversation. I think I'm almost at 30 minutes. This is the feminine perspective. This is the balance. This is the heart chakra. In the Malcolm X video, that clip is actually a minute, but I cut it off because I was watching the clock. That's why I don't like watching the clock, because it gets in my way. But I cut the video off, but in the video, as the video goes on, he talks about how in the nation, they're trained to protect Black women and how important it is, and that we have to be willing to die for our women. So the whole, train of the video was starting out, the Black woman is the most disrespected, the most unprotected on earth. And then and then he came back with the balance and talked about how we as men have to be willing to die for, to protect our women, etc. Right? So, because this is a quantum conversation, right? So adding on to what I said before about stopping using that type of language that projects victim-based consciousness on Black women and Black girls and Black society as a whole. Because it also puts certain males in a perpetual state of aggressor, because there's always a victim present, right? But when Malcolm started talking about we have to be willing to die for our women, okay, so I want to expand from the feminine perspective that conversation, because our men have to be willing to live for themselves. And when a woman is operating in her goddess apparatus or frequency or mindset or state of consciousness, she drastically decreases the probability of her man having to die for her, because she's on her square. This is when you're dealing with spiritual women, it's a different, it's just a different level of the way things work. We can prevent and avoid negativity from coming to us based on our frequency, signal, our bandwidth. And what role does the voice play in all of those things? Oh, a very critical role, maybe the most important. We're talking about the inner being, right? We're having a communication, a conversation on a physical level. You're translating what I'm saying. That's the physical level. But on a spiritual level, we're talking about the inner being. We're talking about being able to pick up on signs and symbols and having intuition to tell us where to go and where to stay from. The inner voice, because who else is going to tell you? And do you even trust it enough that if it does bring a message to you, you can't even receive it or interpret it because you're surrounded by energy vampires or chaos or self-inflicted wounds? So the goddess energy, not to be separated or differentiated from the God consciousness. I just, we having a divine feminine conversation, so we steer it in that direction. When a woman is mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically balanced within herself, she greatly decreases the probability of harm coming to her and her family. That is a internal ownership and awareness that most people on this planet are not operating from, but that this time that we're living in and the drama and the expansiveness of these experiences is going to require, it will be required to get to the other side of this. the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, the physical, all four aspects of yourself. And then you have layers. There's layers within all four aspects of those selves. There's masculine and feminine aspects to the spiritual, masculine and feminine aspects to the physical, to the emotional and the mental. And then there's layers under the mental and the masculine, and layers under the feminine. So how could we ever be bored? We get bored because we're on the clocks of this world. We get bored with 9 to 5s. We get bored with paying bills. We get bored with debt. We get bored of running around on the hamster wheel. That's not living. And if your inner being is still working, it's telling you that every day. So the requirements and the standards moving forward on how you think and how you talk to yourself, and the inner voice and the language and the energy that you radiate out with in the world, that comes from your inner voice, that's giving the environment instructions. Oh, that's critical. I'm probably gonna have to do a separate video just on that in itself. If you don't trust yourself, then that's the work. If you don't trust the voice in your, if the voice in your head, if that voice in your head is working against you more times than not, at any time, but specifically the dominant part of your conversation, then that's the work. You clean that up and you clean everything else up in your life. You clean that inner conversation up and let that inner conversation represent your highest and best goals and aspirations. The ask. We're not even asking, bruh. You say we're waiting on God, God is waiting on us. We're not even asking. And if we are asking, we're asking in desperation. We're praying in desperation with limitation. Oh, I hope. What is hope to a God? A 4-letter word. It's like, talk about saying it with not processing it mentally. Yeah, that's what that is. It has no depth. We're not even asking. Because we know when we ask from a place of alignment, belief meaning knowing, not belief meaning believing, but belief meaning knowing, pure faith, size of a mustard seed maybe. With no stress and no doubt and no disbelief attached to it, it happens. It always happens. It always happens for me. It's when this world gets in the way. When there's interference. The voice in your head should be the loudest voice, and that voice should be showering you with inspiring and encouraging thoughts and ideas, and thinking outside the box and wanting more, and just the best things that this life has to offer, even if you're not currently experiencing them. Cultivate the thought of it, the visual of it, the feeling of it. And be mindful of if the track or the program that's playing in the back of your mind is even yours. Some of us need to get off of social media. That's why I'm not even invested in it like that. And I'm noticing that as the more chaotic it gets, the more dense it gets. Yeah, I'll be, sticking and moving in those social media streets in the coming days. So just keep it light. That's it. So I turned a 1-hour video into no, I turned a 30-minute video into, let's see, it's both 40 minutes. So I turned a 30-minute video into an hour and 20 minutes, right? No, an hour and 40 minutes. An hour and 20 minutes, because 40 plus 40 is 8. So I turned a 30-minute video into an hour and 20-minute video. But you know, thought is a beautiful thing. Just like that, when I just had that aha moment, when I said that, I pictured it. I didn't picture it, I'm picturing it now. I'm trying to make it, I'm making it more dramatic than it needed. I'm picturing it now when I had that thought, when that fire, I felt a, you know, like an electricity in my spirit when I said to myself that you are giving the environment instructions, because I've never processed that like that. So I know there was a rush of electricity that fired off in my brain just now. I'm proud of that. It makes me feel good, you know? So this is why these conversations are important. And like I said, I've been doing this experiment to see if my voice and my energetic resonance can carry my platforms and my content. And I'm very happy and very grateful for those of you who are still listening, those of you who are still engaging, because I know that I know that, you know what I mean? This is not about anything other than the truth. That's what we all should be aspiring to and for right now, the truth. And so, you know, if you still listen and the message resonates just as deeply, then you feel what I feel. This is a download process happening between us when we have these conversations. And it's powerful because I took the physical out of the equation. I didn't start out with that intention, but once I got into it very quickly, I said, wait a minute, I'm getting a lot less sexual energy, emails and weird, you know what I mean? Weird DMs and just, it's keeping a lot of that energy from me at bay, which some females get off on that. I don't. You don't know me like that, bro. I'll get gully on your ass real quick. No, okay, come on, ZaZa, it's quantum conversations. Oh, but I'm just saying, that was my intention, to see if the frequency of the information and the resonance of my intentions could carry the platform, could carry the membership channel, and it absolutely has. And of course, I'll be making my appearance again very soon. It's not even that at this point. A lot of my videos I'm doing very late at night. So I prefer natural light than having a bright ring camera in my face, a ring light in my face. So that plays a part in it too, particularly for the membership channel. But yeah. So I think I said everything I wanted to say. And this is also important because this is the last thing I want to say. I've been talking about in the Headline News series, these artificial intelligence voice clones. And so I played in the last episode YouTube video of a guy who used artificial intelligence and made a song with Kanye West and Kendrick Lamar. And the song was written and performed apparently by artificial intelligence, but it was using their voices. And there was no cohesion in the lyrics. It was like, bits and pieces of their personality. And it was interesting because they were very different. The tone of the messages were very different, right? So this is artificial intelligence, how it's observing or calculating these two men and how they write and how they express themselves. But yeah, now we have, can you trust your mind's eye and your inner voice to be able to discern the organic from the synthetic in a world that is getting more and more synthetic by day? I mean, if I see, artificial intelligence is like super trending on the airwaves right now. So again, the inner voice, because now that's another voice. Artificial intelligence is another voice now. It's a new quote unquote consciousness on the scene. You're getting emails about it. You're seeing articles about it. People that you know and respect are talking about it. in ways that it can be beneficial and help you, et cetera, et cetera. So now it's something else, another voice in the matrix. Just make sure you tap in with your own. ZaZaAli.com is my website. info@ZaZaAli.com is my email address. I will be posting this video on YouTube as well because I didn't want to leave those incomplete sentiments out in the ethers. So I'm going to put this out there. And thank you to you brilliant or you beautiful spiritual nerds that listen to my content that's in this lane. This is really more so where I'm at, the things that I'm interested in. So I look forward to future quantum conversations on the ZaZa Ali exclusive membership channel. Peace and love.